We started dating last year, and it started out great for a month. We spent time together, but also had our alone time. However, his friends bumped in and said he spends all his time with me and not them anymore. Like any guy who likes validation from his friends more, he barely texted or even hung out, maybe once for 2 hours every 2 weeks or so. I felt like I wasn't a priority and was hurt. I tried communicating it with him, but he would call me names like sensitive, a bee, crazy, scream at me, and say we already talked about it. This went on for months of me being hurt and neglected, and I had to beg for him to talk it out with me when he would ignore me for hours playing with his buddies, saying, "Sorry, I got carried away." A few months in, I found out I have brain cancer, and I am scared of telling him because I have no trust in him. 2 weeks after finding out, I broke down and told him how he barely cares about me, and all he does is care about his friends. I hardly ever get to see him, and I don't even know anything about him anymore. He apologized and said he would change. However, the change wasn't drastic, but I accepted it because everything takes time. Unfortunately, summer started, and that's when he works extra time, so I haven't seen him since summer started, and we text a few minutes a day now. I didn't bug him because I understand it's work, but I felt horrible when he would go with his friends to bars. However, I just didn't bother asking for our time together because I didn't want to seem toxic. Here's the kicker. Someone sent a story of him dancing at a party with a girl, and I texted him about it. He was mad and said, "I told you I went to bars." Last time I checked, bars aren't clubs, but I blamed it on myself for not asking him to clarify more before, so I dropped it. On top of that, he would tell me he barely has time, but I found out from our female mutual friend that he plays with her and some others in his free time. A few days later, he told me he is adding his female coworker because he is tired of saying, "I don't have Instagram." Now we have a rule that we aren't allowed opposite genders following us, and he was the one to put that rule, and I was fine with it. But then he decided to change the rules. And not only that, why tell her you don't have Instagram when you could say, "I have a girlfriend"? This just makes me think he doesn't want her to know I exist. After that, I told him I'm adding men, and then he told me no and to understand him, so I just dropped it and let it go. Then, on the same day, I posted a gym picture, and he asked me, "Is that what you wear?" To which I replied, "Yes," and he flat out called me a S. I was mad for days and didn't text him much, and every time he called, I would remind him of what he said, and he still didn't apologize until a week later, giving a half-hearted apology. Today, I was talking about some Reddit post, and he told me that it's for degens and I shouldn't have read it. I was shocked because he shamed an interest of mine when he plays League of Legends for hours a day and is chronically online on Discord, but I never said a bad word and even encouraged him. Every day, I feel like I trust him less and less, just like before, but I am scared of communicating because I don't want to be ignored or called names. I don't know if I can handle it now with my current situation. I really want to have him as my safe space, but I'm scared that once I share that I'm ill and he ruins it, I'll feel regret. Because when it comes to cancer, only a few know about it, and I like it like that. Now for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post did not have any comments. Now for the update. My last post was about how my boyfriend was being a total jerk and ignoring me while I was dealing with my brain cancer diagnosis. Well, here's the update. A couple of days after my last post, I was at home just feeling the weight of this whole thing. I was trying to just chill out, deal with this situation, but honestly, it was hard. I was feeling so alone and just lost in this mess. Then, out of nowhere, I get this message from my boyfriend asking to meet up to talk. I was like, okay, this is either going to go really well or really bad. So we agreed to meet at this local diner, the one we used to go to, hoping maybe some of that old magic would be in the air and I'd get some clarity on things. I got there early, of course, because I was like, I don't want to be late for this. But of course, he shows up late. Typical. And when he does, he's all distracted, checking his phone every 2 seconds like there's something super important happening that I don't know about. The whole thing was just so uncomfortable. I tried to bring up the issue of him partying like a rock star and adding this female coworker on social media, but he just brushed it off like it was no big deal. He was all like, "It's just harmless fun, babe. I'm not doing anything wrong." That made my frustration rise so high I could have touched the ceiling. So I decided, screw it, I'm sharing my cancer diagnosis. I told him how hard it was for me to deal with all this crap alone and how his actions made it so much worse. He just went silent for a moment, and then he changed the subject back to his busy work schedule like I didn't even say anything. Nice. Later that week, I had to attend this family dinner for my cousin's birthday. I thought it would be a nice distraction, but of course it wasn't. During dinner, my cousin asked about my relationship, and it just created this awkward tension. I tried to deflect, but then my family members started pressing me on it. And I just felt cornered like a rat in a cage. Then, out of nowhere, he shows up at the dinner unexpectedly. My family was all like, "Oh my God, it's him." And I was just like, "Yeah, great, just what I needed." He tried to charm the crap out of my family, but honestly, he seemed more interested in his phone than any of the conversations happening around him. My sister was talking about how she was going to be going back to school for her master's, and all he could do was nod while scrolling through his Instagram feed. I was watching him, and then I noticed him laughing with this female family friend of ours, and it just stirred this anger in me. I couldn't help but feel jealous and just raw. After dinner, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted him about his behavior in front of my family. I was like, "What the heck was that?" And he just dismissed my concern, saying it was innocent and that I was overreacting. I was ready to explode, but then my sister intervened. She could see the conflict brewing, so she pulled me aside. She was like, "You need to think about your happiness. Don't settle for less." I knew she was right, but I just felt trapped. The following week, he invited me to a party at a friend's house. I was like, "Sure, I'll go," but I felt uneasy about the whole environment and the potential for drama. At the party, he spent most of the time with his other friends, leaving me alone like I was some kind of decoration. I overheard him joking with a group about being single, and that just took the cake. I was done. He texted later, asking where I went, but I didn't respond. I was just over it all. The next day, I found out from a mutual friend that he was flirting with another girl at the party. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. We arranged to meet at a park where we had our first date. It was a symbolic choice, but I was done with symbols. When we met, I laid out everything. I told him how hurt and betrayed I felt. He tried to deflect, saying he didn't mean anything by it. But I stood firm. I insisted that this is not how a relationship should feel. I told him he made me feel like I was just some option, like it was a damn buffet, and he was just picking whatever he wanted. He started to raise his voice, but I remained calm and collected. I wasn't about to let him bully me. In a heated exchange, I finally declared that we needed to break up. And you know what? He looked shocked, like he couldn't believe I finally had enough of his crap. As we parted ways, I received a text from my sister, checking in. She could sense something was off. I shared the breakup news, and she immediately offered to come over. The next few days were filled with self-care routines and reconnecting with my friends. I started attending a support group for those dealing with health challenges. I found comfort in sharing my story and listening to others' experiences. It made me feel less alone in this big, scary world. A couple of weeks later, I received a surprise package from my sister. Inside was a heartfelt letter and a small care package filled with thoughtful items. It was just what I needed. To answer a few questions, I want to clarify that the decision to break up wasn't made lightly. This guy was my first real relationship, so I had to think long and hard about everything. When I told my sister about him and she was concerned, I knew I had to face the truth. I didn't want to lose him, but I had to value myself. The breakup was rough, but I'm surrounding myself with good people and focusing on my health. Am I the idiot for telling my boyfriend to get over his ex-wife and focus on our relationship? My boyfriend is Japanese and I am Canadian. We live in Japan and have been together since late December 2023. Without airing out my boyfriend's entire life, he has severe relationship trauma. 8 out of 9 of all of his relationships have cheated on him. Cheating is, unfortunately, incredibly common in Japan, and some people even see cheating as morally acceptable. Neither my boyfriend nor I feel this way, but it has left him with a lot of trauma. As a cherry on top, his ex-wife also cheated on him for over a year, then divorced him to be with the man she cheated with and took his 5-year-old son, never to see him again. This is perfectly legal in Japan, and the father is not entitled to custody or visitation with his child. That happened 4 years ago. After his wife, he dated 3 more women who cheated on him, and then he met me. When I first moved into his apartment, it was a disgusting hoarder house that was full of his ex-wife's and son's items. There were so many toys and baby items that had gone untouched. It was like a memorial site. We have since been cleaning and organizing to make it nice and livable. But his mental health was comfortable living in rot because I think that's how he feels on the inside. 1 year ago last week, his mother also died, which was devastating for him. Anyway, now, on top of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, he has a host of personality issues. He is easily angered, sensitive, quick to think I am cheating or want to leave him, depressed, always hypervigilant, anxious, and he has said the most vitriolic words to me I have ever heard. He's so deeply angry and sad on the inside, but when he's not triggered, he is kind, funny, and deeply creative. He is an art director who works with massive international companies and runs his own art business dedicated to his son, and vulnerable and sweet, which is why it hurts so much when he's mean. Everyone has told me to leave him a dozen times, and I truly should, but I can see the person beneath the pain. I had my own journey similar to his, and people still loved me. Now, I am mostly able to regulate myself and have decent mental health. Recently, he agreed to start therapy after I had broken up with him twice due to serious emotional abuse. I told him I would only stay if he gets help. So now I'm asking, for those of you whose partners have gotten help and been to therapy, how do you cope in the time between getting help and healing? Obviously, I don't expect his behavior to change in 1 session or 10 sessions, and I know his anger will flare up again. So, what do I do in the meantime? I'm looking for help from those who have been in this situation, or if you were the partner who got help, I would love to hear from you too. Now for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now, for the update. 3 days after I posted that update about my boyfriend going to therapy, I was back at it, cleaning up more of his apartment. This had become kind of routine for me. He was in therapy, which was good, but the clutter still reminded me of his past. It was like a collection of all the stuff he hadn't dealt with yet. I found myself organizing things, cleaning surfaces, and trying to make it feel like a home, not just a storage unit for his old life. The therapy sessions had started, and I honestly thought we would be making progress in the apartment too. But no, not yet. I had to keep going through his stuff, and it was exhausting. I'd find old pictures of him and his ex-wife, and it would just hit me out of nowhere. Like I knew he had a life before me, but seeing it was different. It made me a little sad and a little angry. Not at him, but just at the whole situation. During one of his sessions, he opened up about feeling abandoned as a child. He didn't really tell me much about his childhood before, and hearing this from him, it changed things. I could see why he reacted the way he did to certain things. Why he was so scared of losing me. Why he would have those emotional outbursts. He was just a kid who got hurt a lot, and I think part of him was still that kid. I wanted to hug him and tell him everything was going to be okay, but I also knew it wasn't that simple. As a little celebration for him working through some stuff in therapy, I thought it would be a good idea to have a small dinner. Just me, him, and a couple of close friends. I wanted to create a supportive atmosphere. I sent a text to a couple of my friends, and they were all in. They knew what was going on with us, and they were always there for support, which I really appreciated. On the day of the dinner, I could tell right away that something was off with him. He seemed so distant and distracted. I was chopping vegetables for a salad, and I overheard him on the phone. He sounded agitated, and I strained to catch snippets of the conversation. It was his ex-wife, and from what I could hear, she was making demands about their son. I felt a knot in my stomach. When our friends arrived, they brought some much-needed laughter into the room, which was great. It started to lift the mood a little, but he still looked distracted. He kept checking his phone, and I just wanted to scream at him to put it down and focus on us for once. It was frustrating. We sat down to eat, and I thought maybe this would help him feel better. But then he abruptly brought up his son and started talking about the custody issues. I tried to divert the conversation to lighter topics, but it was like he was fixated on this. One of my friends even shared a story about their family dynamics, which made him visibly uncomfortable. You could see it on his face. He got up and left the table without saying anything, heading straight to the bathroom. I could tell he was upset. I followed him, knocking gently on the door, but he didn't respond. A few minutes later, he rejoined us, and his mood had just soured. The dinner ended awkwardly. Our friends sensed the tension and left early. I apologized to them 1,000,000 times, but they were understanding. They knew we were going through a lot. The next day was even more intense. He came home with a box filled with reminders of his past. He said he wanted to confront his feelings and needed my help. I looked at this box, and I just felt so tired, but I knew this was important for him, so we spent hours going through old photos and memories. It was emotionally taxing. Then the conversation shifted back to his ex-wife. Apparently, she had filed for modifications to their custody agreement, demanding more involvement. This news hit hard. I could see how much it affected him. It was like she was coming back into his life all over again, and we were just starting to build something together. We decided to work together on a plan to address the situation. I suggested involving a mediator to help navigate the discussions. We spent the evening drafting a list of goals for their family dynamic. It felt like we were a team, working together to tackle this new challenge. There was still so much to figure out, but we were in it together. Edit. I want to clarify that the therapy is individual for him, not couples therapy. It's been tough, and I know some people think I should leave, but I can't. His past has shaped him, and I see the potential for healing. It's a long road, but I'm committed to walking it with him. Am I the idiot for confronting my boyfriend about his sketchy behavior with an old friend? So my boyfriend and I have been together for 2.5 years. We just bought a condo together 3 months ago. Our issues have definitely intensified since we moved in together. We were previously living with his family, so there were other people to buffer things. I 28-year-old female. My boyfriend, 31-year-old male. Stan works in a blue-collar job, awake at 5 a.m., home at 5 p.m., and sometimes is up at about 4:15 to go run first. Due to this, he argues that he has a long, hard, hot, and sweaty day. Stan gets defensive and puts a situation back on me as if it were my problem. For example, 1. My parents gave us a TV armoire, and my mom painted it for us. They are retired, but have a shore house they want to be at a lot right now. They keep themselves busy, so my parents would not help us move it on a weekend. This past Wednesday, we moved it. Stan stated to me that he wanted things done as quickly as possible, as he has had a long day. Stan wanted the truck my dad was borrowing from a friend to be at the house. My parents wanted to wait to see if the rain would lessen, so my dad did not grab the truck. I tried to tell my dad to get the truck, and my dad said, "What? Are you in a rush?" I said no, even though Stan was, I don't like to talk back to my parents. We have never had full open communication, so I shut down and backed off and said no. Shutting down and backing off is a common reaction for me. Stan was annoyed when he showed up at my parents' house and the truck was not there. He expressed that annoyance at me and how I did not get the truck to be there, but he does not do so to my parents. We got it to our condo, and my parents left at about 8:45 p.m. Stan sat there complaining about how late it was, how late my parents stayed, how he had a hard day, and how he has to get up early the next day. If I started to try to defend my parents or myself, Stan gets angry, and we start fighting. 2. We are on our way to my parents' shore house this weekend. There is a pull-out bed in a room with no air conditioning. The only way to get the air conditioning is to leave the front door open and let the air move into that room. Stan said today, "If we are sleeping in the room with no air conditioning, I'm only sleeping over one night and we come home tomorrow." I responded defensively and we began fighting. Stan said that I need to be more empathetic to him, that he has a long day and is sweating all day long. He would expect me to talk back to my parents and say how we want a room in the main air-conditioned area. Then he would be mad if this situation happened and I did not talk back. His dad has similar behaviors to Stan, so I know where he gets it from. I'm just so drained. Do I break up with him? I'll be looking at the comments, so you may ask questions. To add, my boyfriend turns things on me to make them my problem. Do I end things? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think you need to do more things with your family without him. It sounds like he doesn't want to waste his weekend time hanging out with your family all the time. He probably felt like he wasted the whole day waiting for a silly television show that he probably didn't care about. I think he's frustrated that you don't speak up more to your parents. I wouldn't want to go to your parents' house and be sweating the whole time. He needs to be allowed to stay home, and you can do these things without him. If you insist on seeing your family all the time, then do it without him. Now, for the update, I'm still with Stan. We're still living in the condo. Not sure why I thought it would be like a rom-com where everything is just great after living together. Spoiler alert, it's not. The arguments have not eased up since the last time I wrote. We still bicker like we're in an episode of America's Next Top Model. I've got a full-time job, and so does he. I get that, but the moment he walks through the door, I can tell he's mad at the world. And guess who's the lucky target? Yep, me. The other day, I came home to find the sink full of dishes. Literally, there were so many that it was like a mini version of the Great Wall of China. I asked him if he could take out the trash, and he looks me dead in the eyes and says, "Yeah, sure." But then he just plops on the couch like he just climbed Mount Everest. The trash? Still there. So I said, "Hey, could you maybe do the dishes since you forgot the trash?" Wrong thing to say. He blew up on me, saying he works hard and I'm not doing my share. I tried to reason with him, say something like, "How about we split the chores evenly?" And he just rolled his eyes, like I asked him to fly to the moon. I swear, I'm not asking for much, just a little teamwork. So we went to my parents' house for dinner last week, and things got a little awkward. My parents are the kind who think every meal should be a family meeting, and I get it, but not every time. They started asking about our future plans. You know, the classic questions like, "Are you guys engaged yet? And when do we get grandbabies?" Stan was quiet, but then he made this snide remark about not wanting to be tied down. Like, what? My mom jumped in, trying to make a joke out of it, but you could cut the awkwardness with a knife. It was like a sitcom gone wrong. Stan laughed it off, but then in the car on the way home, he had the nerve to criticize me for my family's pressure to settle down. I mean, how is it my fault that you can't read the room? So, he wanted to spend the entire weekend with his friends instead of coming to my family's beach house again. I figured, fine, go enjoy your beer and pizza, but then a week later, I saw a photo of him with this girl from high school on social media. They're at a bar, and she's got her arm around him. My heart dropped so fast. I confronted him about it, and he just brushed it off like it was nothing. He said, "It's just a friend. You're overreacting." Overreacting? You mean like when you think I want to take all the master's bedrooms and leave you with the kids? We went to a family friend's beach house the next weekend, and it was like a reality show. We started arguing over who gets which room. I wanted to share with my younger sister because she's actually fun. Stan wanted the master bedroom like he was the king of the castle. My sister heard us yelling and came out to suggest we just stay home instead. That's how bad it got. I tried to change the mood and suggested we plan a family barbecue. Stan agreed, but then last minute he said he needed to catch up on work. So I did all the planning myself. My parents were disappointed because they love spending time with him. We were having dinner with my parents when they brought up family vacations. I mentioned how we should plan a trip, and Stan just cut me off. He said it was too much hassle and we should save money. I could feel my parents' disappointment, and I knew Stan was getting irritated. Then, out of nowhere, his parents showed up. It was awkward because they started questioning our relationship. His dad made some comment about us needing to be more serious, whatever that means. Stan got defensive and started arguing with me, which made my parents uncomfortable. He stormed out, and I later found a note from him saying he needed time to think. I was like, great, now I'm getting dumped via handwritten note. A week went by with no word from him. It was like a silent movie. Then he came back, saying he needed to talk. But he was so distant. My parents were celebrating their anniversary, and I asked Stan to come along. He agreed, but seemed uninterested, like he would rather be anywhere else. The dinner was filled with awkward silences, as if the air was thick with unspoken words. Suddenly, he announced he needed to leave early because he felt unwell. I felt relieved when he left because the tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. A few days later, I found out through a mutual friend that he had been spending a lot more time with that old high school friend. I knew I had to confront him. Whatever this is between us, it can't keep going on like this. Mini update. We're still together, but things are very similar. He still gets irritated by my family, and we fight a lot. He says I don't understand his life, but he does not understand mine either. I think we're both getting tired of each other's differences, but I'm not ready to give up yet. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.